But first, breaking tonight, a circuit court in Virginia ruled a short time ago, within the past 2 hours, that the redistricting referendum passed by voters yesterday is unconstitutional. The judge is now blocking certification of the election and denying a motion to stay pending appeal.
All right, well, huge update on the Virginia redistricting referendum that we've been covering today, because apparently it has now been blocked by the courts. That is right. So everybody point and laugh at the Democrats. Hey, it doesn't feel too good, does it? Because I already know what they're going to say. From Democrats, you're going to hear, this is an overreach of judicial power. Can you believe that the judges are just stepping in and arbitrarily stopping what we want to do? What even is a temporary injunction? How is that supposed to work? Yeah, you don't say. It's not too nice when you have judges just blocking all of the attempts to change the country through politics that you're trying to make. But you know what? No kings. There you go. No kings, right? No, everyone chant. No kings, no kings. But no, in all seriousness, so as of tonight, just about 24 hours after this referendum, a Virginia judge has now issued a temporary injunction. Oh, sound familiar? Let's see how they like it. That he is personally declaring this referendum to be unconstitutional. Now, it does still remain to be seen how this will be appealed. You probably have seen this process before. We have to find out how the Virginia State Supreme Court ends up deciding on this. But at least for the meantime, the actual certification of this election has been halted, to which I say, well, that would have been nice in 2020, wouldn't it have been, right? We've come a long way where we actually have the ability to halt the certification and review the eligibility of an election. You know, I seem to remember when a bunch of states arbitrarily and unconstitutionally changed their election laws, oftentimes not even by passing laws, by mere executive orders done by secretaries of states. And we didn't manage to get those lawsuits through in the meantime. It only happened way after the fact. But hey, funny how now suddenly, right? If you try to force something to happen during an election that actually violates your own state constitution, we can't step in and stop it. We're making good progress, I have to say. Now, it still, again, remains to be seen how the Supreme Court rules on this. Upon my research, the Virginia Supreme Court, I guess because they serve 12-year terms, is still a relic of the past, so it is somewhat conservative. I guess the 18th most conservative in the country. You could basically declare it to be a moderate right-wing or even a rhino Supreme Court, right? Don't expect these guys to be heavy MAGA, but maybe perhaps the possibility that they're sort of in the center ideologically. They might shoot down this very naked power grab by the Virginia Democrats, because we'll explain to you exactly what they did today and why, of course, it is now being struck down, as well as the current Democrat meltdown, okay? Because we have Hakeem Jeffries completely losing his mind. He is, of course, fuming at the other story we discussed today, which is the fact that because Virginia is moving full steam ahead, other red states are now seeking to counter the power grab of Democrats. But, you know, as you know, when Democrats do this, it's democracy. But when Republicans actually play the game of politics and play to win, suddenly we're the fascists, we're the evil bad guys. That just tells you, frankly, that we're doing the right thing. So let's get into all of it, guys. First, though, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. As we've been mentioning over the past several days, currently we have leftists trying to copyright troll and get our channel taken down. So we would appreciate if you would just hit that subscribe button, make sure notifications are on, okay? Make sure we beat the algorithms and the losers, the homeless losers trying to censor us at the moment with the DMCA trolling. But anyways, let's get into all of this, guys. So, apparently, here are the key details of the story. First and foremost, a Virginia judge has just blocked the state from certifying the results of Tuesday's congressional map referendum, deeming the referendum and the bill that triggered it as unconstitutional according to a judge's order issued Wednesday. Again, not to keep hitting on this point, but would have been nice in 2020, right? You know, a lot of people always ask the question, where's your evidence that it was rigged? Well, what I know first and foremost is that in many cases, illegally, election laws were arbitrarily changed in many swing states in ways that even organically would have favored Democrats in terms of turnout and mail-in voting and things like that, right? Like, that's undeniable. And, you know, it would have been nice at the time to get those laws blocked, okay? At least let's conduct an election the way we've always conducted elections. Oh, no, we can't even do that. And then you're like, how dare you say it was rigged? Well, I mean, look at in this case right here, right? You know, the Democrats are going to do the same thing. They're going to claim that, oh, we did our redistricting by democratic means. It's the Republicans who are doing these illegal power grabs. And then you're about to notice how, no, what Democrats are doing is not actually all that legal. And a lot of what you'll hear about sounds awfully nostalgic of about 6 years ago. So let's get into these details. Virginia's current Attorney General Jay Jones confirmed to 7 News on Wednesday that his office would be appealing that decision. Now, the order, according to officials, came from the Tazewell Circuit Court, which previously blocked the referendum after repeatedly deeming the vote and resolution for the referendum unconstitutional, siding with Republicans who had filed several suits. So it does sound like, in general, this circuit court does lean right. It is worth noting as well that both previous attempts blocking the referendum were struck down by the Virginia Supreme Court. And so I would keep in mind that this is far from guaranteed. We have to figure out in the end what the Supreme Court ends up doing. But given the ideological breakdown that we explained, it's 50-50, right? I would not put high confidence in the Supreme Court. I frankly am pessimistic because of the fact that we seem to never really win all that much in the judiciary, especially outside of the national Supreme Court. So please keep in mind too, this is not an excuse for other Republican states to now drop the ball on redistricting, right? It's not an excuse for Florida to go soft or Indiana to be forgiven for what they did because, oh, look, the Virginia referendum failed, because we don't know yet if it actually failed, okay? This is just an injunction. This is obviously going to be appealed, but it is good news. At the very least, we are casting severe doubts on the actual legitimacy of what Democrats did here. Objectively, it's not all that good of a look for the party, especially, who constantly defends the judiciary as being so vital for democracy, right? No kings, we're blocking power grabs. Although, let's be honest, they're completely dishonest about all of those things. So they're just going to claim that this is a MAGA fascist court. And frankly, they'll say the same thing about the Supreme Court. But that's not a good look. Of course, when we get into the full details here, you'll further find out how actually undemocratic and unnormal the process here was. But anyways, actually, as a matter of fact, let's just get right into that. So when you read over the docket of this judge's ruling, you'll basically find 3 key issues. The first and foremost, the reason why constitutional concerns were raised about this is because, I kid you not, Democrats opened a special session in 2024 to do redistricting, and they kept it open for 2 years. Now, you're probably thinking, how can you even keep a legislative session open for 2 years? Don't you need, I don't know, quorum? Don't you need like an official record? How can you just open something, not close it, and then claim it's still open and use that as a way to force this referendum through? Well, that'll set the precedent for a lot of things, because as you read through this, you begin to notice, wait a minute, this was completely illegitimate. It is awfully honestly familiar of the 2020 election, when a bunch of states just changed their election laws without actually putting them through the legislative process. And you'll find the same thing here, right? So the first issue raised by the plaintiffs is that the 2024 special session could not legally remain active as of October 31st, 2025, the date of the passage of the proposed constitutional amendment. So, wait, you're thinking like, what, right? So the second challenge to the actions of the 2024 special session is failure of the General Assembly to follow its own resolutions in adding the proposed constitutional amendment to the scope of business that may come before the 2024 session. So basically, you know, this is all complimented parliamentary stuff, but the legislature has these rules that say, you need to have the members of the floor vote on amendments, which means, okay, we're going to come and debate whether this should be part of the legislative session this year, blah, blah, blah. It's very eerily similar to the very boring workings of the Senate and things like that. But still, nonetheless, right, for the party who claims that they're, the defenders of democracy and Trump is violating our democratic norms, it is worth noting they just totally broke all their own rules. And point number 3 here further notes that they basically violated their own constitution and disenfranchised their voters, because the state constitution lays out specific terms as to how you're supposed to do these elections for amendments, and by trying to pass that amendment in the middle of a general election that was already happening. Basically, already 1 million votes were cast, and so therefore you could not ram that through in the way that you did, right? A lot of complicated legal jargon, but this is basically what it is saying, right? The party of democracy effectively had disenfranchised a bunch of people by rushing the redistricting through this fast, although it should not exactly be a secret as to why this effort was done so sloppily and quickly, and why there are so many legal holes in what the Democrats were doing, because they were trying to ram it through before the 2026 midterms, except it turns out they ran into a bunch of problems. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will see what happens from that point, but just wanted to bring you that update, right? Oh, we did things democratically. Oh, we are, so amazing. We're the party of democracy. That is, of course, why, first and foremost, let's not forget, they completely rigged the referendum to begin with by putting this nonsense about choosing fairness, if you remember, right? On the, they used the wording of the ballot amendment to be extremely manipulative, but according to Democrats, that's what it means to have democracy. Democracy is when you rig everything, you rig the rules. In fact, you break the rules in favor of liberals, like they did with state election laws in 2020. I'm going to keep saying that a million times because we shouldn't forget that point. But, of course, that is what democracy means. And then now democracy means that we're rushing through a referendum that constitutionally should have never actually really existed. But nonetheless, with all of that in mind, we still, to this day, now have Hakeem Jeffries completely freaking out and losing his mind that other Republican states, because of largely what Virginia did, may be moving forward with their own redistricting. That includes Florida, to which Hakeem Jeffries had this quite ridiculous statement to say earlier today.
Our message to Florida Republicans is F around and find out. If they go down the road of a DeSantis dummy-mander, the Florida Republicans are going to find themselves in the same situation as Texas Republicans, who are on the run right now. And under no circumstances are Texas Republicans picking up 5 seats. They'll be fortunate if they get 2 or 3. While in California, we are going to get all 5. The Republicans are dummy-mandering their way into the minority before a single vote is cast, because they started this war, and we're going to finish it. The electoral tide is turning in Florida. As Chairwoman Del Bene illustrated, we won the Miami mayor's race in December for the first time in almost 30 years. By 20 points. And now Eileen Higgins is mayor in a city that's 75% Latino.
Oh yeah, that logic totally tracks. You've lost the last several statewide and national races by double digits, but because Democrats won a localized election in an urban area where the Republican candidate was generally unknown and there were many local factors influencing those candidates, surely this means in a national election that's going to translate, right? Florida's going to go blue, don't you know? I don't know if you've noticed as of late, but the Democrats seem to be extremely arrogant and overconfident about the midterms, and if you read those signs on the surface, I guess they have reason to be, but I would point out, this honestly rings eerily similar to the Democrat overconfidence in 2016, or the Republican overconfidence in 2022, I want to remind, for example, Hakeem Jeffries, this referendum in Virginia, after admittedly a pretty sizable election victory just last November in Virginia, you barely won. You manipulated the voters in terms of the rhetoric on the ballot, right? The Republican Party, as we complained about in the last video, didn't even try. They barely put resources into stopping your Democrat power grab, and it still barely passed by 2 points. In Virginia, in a blue state, in a place that is competitive, that shouldn't be competitive, I should say, right? And now they're open. You might even lose the battle in court for all we know. And you're going to sit here and say, oh, well, we're so arrogant. We're going to freaking flip Florida. Well, honestly, I hope Democrats keep that attitude, right? Because it is definitely the cocky and the arrogant enemy that is the best to battle against them. That's similar to what Ron DeSantis said.
This guy Jeffries popping off in Washington about Florida. He wants to be Speaker of the House. And he's kind of like, more liberal than Pelosi and all this other stuff from New York City. I just want to know, I just say, oh, Florida can't do, we're going to go after Florida. Please be my guest. I will pay for you to come down to Florida and campaign. I'll put you up in the Florida governor's mansion. We'll take you fishing. We'll do all this stuff. There's nothing that could be better for Republicans in Florida than to see Hakeem Jeffries, everywhere around this state. Voters will not like what they see. They will not want that type of ideology. And so the door is open. The invitation's out there. I don't think there'd be anything better for the Republican Party of Florida but to have Jeffries there.
Well, yeah, exactly. I think that's the perfect point, because what these arrogant Democrats seem to forget is that no matter what Trump's approval rating actually is, theirs is still lower. You are not liked by the American people. Even the American people who maybe are not big fans of Trump, they think he runs his mouth too much, right? Those types of Americans, you are not liked by them either. You are not popular. And frankly, Hakeem Jeffries, the more you get on camera and run your mouth and try to be this cool, likable person and think that people are actually into you, which they're not, the more you're actually going to drive Republican turnout sky high. Let me let the Democrats in on a little secret. Do you know why the Virginia referendum was close? Do you know why Republican turnout, which was pretty sleepy back in 2025, suddenly surged in rural conservative areas in 2026, contributing to the reason why even in Virginia, you almost just lost that referendum? Is because the moment that you get on camera, the moment that you start legislating and actually doing things, hey, Democrats, let me let you in on this secret. People don't actually like you. You're not actually cool. Just because some of the population has Trump derangement syndrome doesn't mean that when you get into office, you suddenly know how to govern or something like that, right? So I encourage these Democrats, continue to be, first of all, as arrogant as possible, right? Be as complacent as possible. But then secondly, put yourself out there as much as possible. Oh yeah, we're the Democrats. The American people love Democrats. See how that works out for you. And by the way, to Republicans, I'd further like to say, going into the midterms, look, I understand there's a lot of frustrations to be had with the National Republican Party as an institution. I'm not even really encouraging you to vote for them. I encourage you to vote, frankly, against the terrorist, radical, lunatic party on the other side who we do not want to take power. But I'd furthermore say that you look at a result like last night, right? It's sad that we lost. There's no moral victories, but still, Virginia went from D+15 to D+2 in the span of a couple months. Stop having despair, right? Don't get me wrong. It's going to be a difficult election. I'm not trying to downplay that. I'm not saying, oh, it's going to be a red wave or something. But this idea, right, that we kid ourselves and think that it's out of reach. For example, like the National Republican Party, who didn't even try, and then we're like, oh, shoot, it was D+2. We could have won that. Yeah, you could have. You know why? Because the demoralization campaigns, which you have to wonder where that's coming from, by the way, are not something you should be buying into. Let me make the analogy to something like sports, right? Because oftentimes Nick Saban talks about the consequences of success. Okay, oftentimes the team that is overconfident can have the other side creep up on them, right? Because if they're so, oh, we're going to win, we don't have to try, we don't have to put effort, and then you realize, oh, shoot, we had to try, that can be a disaster. But on the other side, the demoralized team doesn't do well either, right? The team who looks at the other team across the field and says, oh, wow, they're too big. Oh, wow, we're going to get destroyed. They play scared the whole time. Does that team ever win? No. The best, and if you ever play sports, you probably know this. The best zone you want to be in is the one where you know that you have healthy competition, right? There's a difficult challenge in front of you, but you still know you're in range where you can believe in yourself, right? You believe in yourself, you know you have the ability to do well, but you have to give it your best. That's the position you want to be in, right? And I would argue the same is true of political movements. Political movements, first of all, that are overconfident, often get destroyed from within because they are complacent and they, let things start to rot. That's true. On the other hand, political movements that are too demoralized to the point where they're just like, oh, we're defeated, we're done. Yeah, needless to say, those are not effective movements either, right? We need to have this healthy level of, look, it's an uphill battle, but we can actually do it, okay? Stop believing this propaganda that, oh, well, the midterms are completely lost already. Not a single vote has been casted yet. You don't even know that. You don't even know what's going to happen. I'd look back, for example, to the 2022 midterms. This exact situation went down. You may remember, Republicans, and myself included, were extremely arrogant about this election. We're like, there's no way. It's going to be a total historic red wave. Look at the economy, look at inflation, all those things. And then it's barely a red wave at all. We win the House by a couple seats. Democrats, if I'm not mistaken, actually expand their margin in the Senate. You could argue the Democrats walked away that night actually with the real victory, or the political victory, right? And why did that happen? Because anything can happen in elections. Let me just put it that way, right? So to forecast right from before it happens what the election results are going to be is ridiculous. You have to be involved. Okay, we have to care. We should keep on redistricting, right? With not with just the idea that, oh, we need to fight back against the left, with the idea that the 2026 elections matter, because guess what? They do. And if we go in with the any given Saturday, or I guess in this case, any given Tuesday mentality, then I think you clearly saw the evidence, as we did last night to a degree, right? That's like Virginia conservative voters throwing the Hail Mary, realizing they have nothing to lose, but they're pissed off, they're galvanized, right? Notice how that actually gets us to a pretty good position. Folks, if the national environment reflected Virginia D+2, in 2024, for example, Trump would have won even more states. In 2025, same situation, right? So, just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. And Democrats, right, you're going to be super arrogant when you almost lost this referendum in a blue state. In a blue state, this was not Prop 50 in California. You won by 2 points. Let me repeat that. You freaking rigged the election, basically, right, through the wording on the ballot. It wasn't even constitutional what you did, and you still almost lost. And these are the people who are going so arrogantly into the midterms. These are the people who the Republicans are saying, hey, we're going to lose. It's just all over, man. We're so screwed. Stop freaking thinking like that, right? It's like, it pisses me off. It pisses me off. Please remember, okay, that no matter how much the Republican Party might upset you or the economy or gas prices, I get it, right? And by the way, it's pretty normal to lose the midterms as the incumbent party. But please stop with this defeatist mentality. And please, by the way, remember, we're up against the Democrats. This is Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer. And you're saying, oh, there's just no way we can beat these people. Oh, they're a word that starts with R, okay? We absolutely need to care about these midterms. And, I'm not making a prediction at this moment. Let me just say, if it's less of a blue wave than everybody's thinking, that wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me for the very reasons we're laying out here. Okay, the Democrats still suck. With enough exposure, by the way, if the attention is on them, people remember, oh shoot, we really don't like Democrats. Democrats are violent, crazy, evil people. Yeah, we know. And look at this result right here in Virginia, and tell me the midterms are something to close the book on already. No, not a single vote's been casted, right? So this stuff, all these like defeatists just piss me off. But anyways, that said, guys, there you have it for now. The news is getting better as it goes on, but I told you, that's why I said, just don't despair. Stop the despair. People don't want to listen. Oh, we lost everything. It's over. Okay. Anyways, let me know your thoughts. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.